People who just up and left one day and started a new life. What was your experience like? 3 years ago I moved from London, UK to Alberta, Canada. Best decision of my life. London is a very lonely city, especially when you're introverted. I never made any real close friends, and it's so insanely expensive that even with a great job I didn't have much money left to go out and enjoy life. And I lived in a small, awful shared apartment where the only space to myself was a probably 20 square foot room or smaller. It is an amazing city, but it didn't work for me. Since being in Alberta I've made some close friends and met the love of my life. I finally have savings and a realistic prospect of buying a house one day. I live in a huge 2-bedroom apartment by myself. I live near the Rockies, so I do a good amount of hiking. I've been tubing and ice skating with friends. Pre-COVID I started going to a new gym, and on the first session, had people saying hi. Probably cold bean friends if COVID hadn't hit. Not to mention it's so sunny. The cold is extreme, but I will never miss the grey and rain of England. I moved here with a 2-week Airbnb reservation, $5,000 to survive off, and no real plan. No jobs prospects. Just the knowledge I could book a flight home if needed. Somehow it all ended up working out. I did this last year. Granted I stayed in the same state. It was terrifying and exciting all rolled into one. I quit my job without having another one. Sold my house without having a home. Packed everything my son and I owned and moved 3 hours away. Best decision ever. It made me feel like I could do it again if I ever wanted to. The world is so big. So it was empowering. I did this a year and a half ago. Best thing I've ever done. Moved from Western New York to Arizona. It was tough at first with trying to get on my feet. And when I did, the pandemic started. But it's easier to do than most people think. I believe most people don't do it because of the unknown and scared of change. For me, I'm happier than I've ever been. I have a really good paying job. The best paying job I've ever had actually. And the first job I've ever had that I enjoy going to. I'm 34, so that's saying something. And to live where I live. Views of mountains. Beautiful weather. It's just a dream come true. A year ago me and my partner were addicted to drugs, living in a little room. Depressed with no motivation. So we just up and left. Today we are in our own place in the country with steady jobs, and I have never been happier. Or 3-day bus ride from Illinois to New York. I was so tired when I got there. I didn't see my future wife for almost an hour and felt that she got cold feet seeing as we had never met. We met, went to one of her friend's house and got to know each other, and wound up making out on her couch. 20 plus years and 3 kids later, I haven't regretted a single day. Sold everything and got on a Greyhound with my 2 little kids and went across country to a big city I had visited once and loved. We've been here 11 years now. Have never regretted making this our home. It was very hard. We had struggled so much, but the decent life we have now made it worthwhile. Found out my ex was cheating on me on Thanksgiving. I completely snapped mentally. Became so cold overnight. New Year's Eve plans had already been made to drive to Seattle from Los Angeles. I played it cool, but cold for a month. Why are you being such a jerk lately is the most I got. We drove to Seattle to visit her sister. I insisted we take my car. BC it was newer and more reliable. We get to Seattle, eat dinner, sleep. Next morning I dropped the bomb that I knew. Walked to my car, took her luggage out, and dropped it on the front step. Told her good luck finding a way back home. Got in my car and drove to Portland. Called an old friend on the way, and they let me stay in a spare bedroom for a few weeks until I found a job. A 1-bedroom apartment was like $500 a month at the time in Gresham. So I got up and running pretty quickly. Damn, I hate cheaters. So much. Been cheated on twice in my life, and both times I just burned those bridges to heck as I walked away. Interestingly enough, that same woman messaged me a Facebook just to say hi. I looked on her profile and saw she just got married the day before. Got married. First thoughts were about me. Blocked and moved on. I'm happily married now for going on 3 years. Stayed in Portland for 3 years and eventually moved back to Los Angeles area. to help with sick family members, where I ended up meeting my wife. I moved from Colorado to Oregon 5 years ago, partially to end my 5-year abusive relationship and mostly to simply experience another state and to try to not feel stuck with depression and life in general. Though I got booted from my dream apartment in Eugene due to needed renovations, I now have more income to put towards my dream of tattoo school, hopefully this spring, COVID restrictions, and am living with my amazing boyfriend of 7 months. I'm in a metal band and never would have dreamed of pushing my boundaries like this 2 years ago, or of someone who treats me the way my current guy does. Life uprooting? I recommend it. If you are in a rut and have the chance to start fresh somewhere with a better job and lifestyle, then just do it. Modern transport and telecommunications mean that keeping in touch with friends and family is easier than ever. I took a chance and moved from a crappy place in the UK to Central Europe 12 years ago, and it completely transformed my life in almost every meaningful way. I went from really strongly disliking the place I live in and the kind of people I had contact with, to now living in what is for me a paradise, working in stimulating and increasingly well-paid jobs, and surrounded mostly by positive and intellectual people. Also, my quality of life is just awesome and my health and fitness is now really good. I still haven't met my soulmate or life partner, but I've no idea if that person even exists, and at least I have had some good along the way with some great and memorable people. Lord knows what I would have been doing with my life if I hadn't have taken that chance. Probably in some uninspiring job in an uninspiring place, dreaming about how my life could have been different if only I'd had more balls. Life is short, so take what opportunities you can to make it better. I just did it partially a couple months ago. I only went to the next state and I still have the same job, but I left everything else I knew behind. Some days I have regrets, others I'm loving the liberation. It's mostly the former until I get a bit more security. Quit my job and gave up my penthouse apartment in Vancouver. Oh man, the view of Stanley Park and the mountains was amazing, and moved to Japan for 1 year, maybe 2. 24 years later, I'm still here, happily married, and living in an even bigger penthouse apartment. Oh man, the view of the hospital and the railroad tracks is shit. Life. Am I right? 4 years ago, I abruptly quit a job I had worked for 5 years that I finally had to admit was a dead end. I got a job at a lodge in a national park flipping burgers for minimum wage. I didn't know a single person there when I moved, but it quickly led to traveling to amazing places like Alaska and making lots of friends from all over the world. The experience gave me the confidence to really pursue my career goals. And last year I finally got my dream job. Nothing good happens in your comfort zone. I did plan it 6 weeks in advance, but I moved while working remotely during the pandemic. I had been wanting to leave my old state for a couple of years and could finally escape. I knew someone who was willing to let me rent a room from them until I got settled and found my own place. I broke my lease, sold/donated a bunch of stuff, put the rest in storage, then loaded up my car with my 2 pets and started driving north. 3 months later, I landed a new local job and have been much happier since. Overall it's been good. I, 40F, have done this a few times now. The last time was spring of 2018. I had a very uncomfortable 2 weeks with some random elderly couple I met off Craigslist that I could have done without. They offered free room and board in exchange for help around the house and to be a friend to the wife when the husband worked out of town. But when I got there they turned out to be nudist swingers who wanted me to join them. That was not happening. So I left and wandered to another state. I've been here for 2 years by myself. Happy. I got a great job that I enjoy. I keep to myself mostly. It's been good. I had cut all ties with my extended family decades ago, and my husband died in 2016. So there isn't anything or anyone tying me to any particular place. While I make friends easily, I don't maintain friendships by choice. So walking away and starting over isn't a big deal to me. I like the change of scenery. I like discovering new places and developing a routine full of my new favorite restaurants or parks and grocery stores. Being a regular in a neighborhood gas station, then poof, I'm gone. On to the next place. When I moved into my current place, I could recall 34 places I've lived in my lifetime. I did this in my same town. Not a huge town. 3 mil strong. Takes an hour driving from one part of town to another. Never do I run into anyone I grew up with until social media happened. Dropped off. Moved to another part of town. Lived on campus at a university and reinvented myself. Met the mother of my children and left behind the unproductive person I was tracking to be. To the dismay of everybody, I announced I wanted to get married and escape the bum life of being my parents' driver and assistant and housekeeper. Ran away with my GF and married her, to the dismay of everybody in her family. But we just kept insisting this is what we want, and if you disagree we can get lost, you know. Which we proved by living alone doing odd jobs for a year. But they wanted us around. Now that we have a baby, so now we live in my wife's home. Well, IDK if this counts as starting a new life, but when I was a tween, my single, disabled mother, me, and my little sister was living in a toxic house with someone, while we were down on our luck. I mean, the people we stayed with would lock us out constantly, then scream at us when we knocked to come in, stalk the bathrooms, and try to barge in on us. So we had to all go together and go to sleep at like 7 PM and expect it to be silent after that. It was so bad that my mother finally decided she would rather be homeless than have to deal with that toxic place. So, in the middle of the night, we slipped the yak out the window and snuck out the window and never looked bad. The 2 years that passed after that weren't much better. We slept in our car and had to bathe at the beach. It was hard working every day and hiding we were homeless. But we finally got a place last year that we are all so thankful for. For anyone that is in an abusive, toxic household thinking of leaving, but too afraid to do it. It won't be easy at first, but stay strong and keep faith. And never give up. Good things will eventually come out of it. It's worth the struggle to have peace, mentally and emotionally. I suppose I did too. My best friend and I boarded a plane to Australia from the UK the day of our final exams at university. I live in Aus still 7 years later, with the love of my life, 2 dogs and a thriving career. I do this every /2 years. I'm a bit of a nomad. As you can probably guess, I don't like staying in one place too long. In the past 10 years, I've lived in 7 different cities across 3 countries. I've also changed careers a few times. I knew from a young age that I didn't want to be tied to one place or to one person. I've been single save for about 3-ish years between a few relationships in the past decade as well. I'm very creative in multiple fields, so I support myself with freelance work, which means I don't do the corporate 9 to 5 job route. I've worked for a number of companies in creative roles, but never full time. My life allows me to travel as I please and experience freedom like some only dream of, and I'm very independent. I'll say the downsides are definitely that I don't really form roots anywhere, and picking up and leaving means having to spend a lot of time alone while adjusting to a new place. Thankfully, I sincerely enjoy my own company and make friends easily. I've also gotten really good at maintaining long distance friendships. At the moment, all my relationships are long distance. I moved during the pandemic to a new city and I'm alone save for a few hours a month. But as a creative person, I never get bored. I always have something to do, something that drives me, something I'm passionate about. If I feel lonely, I pick up the guitar and write a song, or make art, or practice a performance, or do an interior design project, or call family/friends. I'm also big into the outdoors, so I go on spontaneous explorations all the time. But, as a woman, there are times traveling alone, hiking alone, or being alone at night, etc. can be nerve-wracking, sometimes scary, but I already faced abuse in my younger years, which led me to train in martial arts. I'm out of practice at the moment, stupid COVID, but as soon as things open up again, I'm getting back to my Muay Thai and Krav Maga practice. I'm also a good shot, but I don't own a gun. Also, sometimes just day-to-day stuff can be a bitch doing alone. There's no one else to vacuum, or do the dishes, or take out the trash, or cook dinner, or do laundry, or buy groceries, or help hang that damn 40-pound mirror 7 feet off the ground. I was very pleased at having done it myself, and it was a good workout. And sometimes I long for company, but a relationship, or even a pet, would mean less freedom. Actually, the previous relationships I mentioned all ended because I moved. So for now, I'll stay on this path. I'm already planning on moving again next year. Who knows? Maybe I'll start thinking about settling down one day, in the very distant future. Edit, word choice, grammar/spelling. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.